Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Gary Lee from Intel. I'm a coordinator of the IOWN Global Forum for the Mobile Network Task Force. So today, I'd like to give you an introduction of this task force document, Technical Outlook for Mobile Network using IOWN technologies. So the IOWN Global Forum for the Mobile Network document is a collective efforts with a contribution from the members in the task force, including the contribution, editor, and also review from the many of the members. So in today's the presentation, I first want to give you the introduction of the reference document, and I go over the study item and the recommendation. And finally, I will touch on that 2022, that the task force work plan. So why do we want to form this task force to study the mobile transport network? So first of all, that the mobile data traffic continues grows. That today, when a 4G for a typical 4G user, the monthly the data usage is about 8 gigabyte. So after upgrade to the 5G, we saw that the users that the data usage increased to at least 16 gigabytes, and in many places that all the way to the 25 gigabytes per month. So that huge increase is mainly driven by the widely use of the video and the photo-rich applications. So that increase that the data usage is quite dramatically, and also in the 5G that the millimeter that the frequency band is introduced. So as you increase the frequency, that the coverage area shrinks, and therefore you were at the base station. So the data volume increase, and also that the increase of the base station would drive that the capacity of the underlying that the transport networks. With 5G and also projected for 6G, there will be more applications that it's latency sensitive, such as the AR, VR, industrial control, automation. So with that latency sensitive application, we will have to increase the number of the data center and also move the data center toward the edge of the mobile network to reduce the network latency. So finally, that the wireless network is following that the IT network infrastructure to become virtualized, disaggregated, cloudified, and cloud native. So wireless network evolution in turn will drive that the transport network changes. So in these slides, we project that the 6G that the KPIs. This KPI are demanded by the user case identified by the IOWN Global Forums, and that user cases are going to be enabled by the project new technology. So we project that the 6G KPI will have the 10-time plus improvement over the 5Gs. For instance, that on the peak data rate, we project that the 6G will need the terabits per second data rate, and also that the network latency will reduce from 1 millisecond in 5G to 0.1 millisecond in 6G. In addition, we also expect that the 10 to 100 times improvement of the synchronization, and also in the positioning technologies. So this is the table that we're taking from the technical document that show the 5G and project the 6G KPIs. In the document, we also show that we review the current status of the art and also perform the gap analysis. So we review the works by the various standard body, and also that there's some industrial forum, including the 30GPP ORAN, ITU, OIF, etc. So we observe the gap between that high performance goal demanded by the use case identified on Global Forum versus that what we can provide with today's technologies. For example, that we look at what the throughput requirement demanded by the user case and also the latencies in the transport network. We also identify that the gap in the synchronization and the positioning technology between today's technology and the required the future technologies. So the two major architecture proposal by IOWN Global Forum are the Open APN and also the DCI, which were talked about yesterday and also today in today's presentation. So in the World chapter, we try to apply this as the new concept to mobile access network. So in this diagram, we apply the DCI and also APN to one of the potential virtual RAN deployment scenarios, as shown here. In the technical document, we propose several of the study items. So first item that is to study the extent of the cooperative transport interface for mobile network and APN. And so for this one, we want to understand what the information is received from mobile network through the extent of the CTI. And we're also going to study the functionality and the performance requirement, including the applicability of the short-term TTI considered in the ultra low latency use case, and how we can apply extend the CTI to the middleband and the backhauls. As discussed today earlier in the presentation, we will also look at how the mobile network deployment scenario of the APN based on the time synchronization latencies. You can consider different scenario to meet the user case. So we have to consider various the deployment scenario. The third study item is that we are going to study how to achieve the optimized transport network for cost-effective deployment and operation efficiency. That including what is the best optical packet-based transport for the XHAUL network architecture, and how we can install the fiber infrastructure to preserve the current investment, and also study the possibility of integrate the photonic ROADMs. Another study item that we are going to apply the APN DCI to the RAN. Including how do we apply to DCI into the cloud native network function and also virtual network function models. The item number 5 that we were going to also study the time sensitive network for APN and the mobile network. That including investigate on the technology enabling the autonomous gate control list setting for the time aware shape without the precise time synchronization, and also including the investigate on the technology enabling optimization of the bandwidth utilization efficiency in the time aware shape. So based on the work that's done in that task force, we collectively come up with the recommendations. That including we need the harmonization of the orchestration, assurance, and the machine learning and the AI from an end-to-end perspective, which can be fully dynamic and automatic for each specific vertical service. We also need to develop the global standard, including the open interface in the front hall, middle hall, back hall to embrace the open network architecture. That you heard at the talk yesterday by the Red Hat, they talk quite a bit about the open architectures. We also need to specify the interface between the APN controller and the resource management of other network element. And we have quite a few that recommendation. I don't think I want to go through that one by one because of the time constraint. So move to the next slides. That I want to touch on that this year's work plan. So first of all, that we will continue the study item that I just talked about in the previous slides, which include extend the CTI mobile network deployment scenario over the CNF and the VNF, and also that how to achieve the optimized transport network for cost-effective RAN deployment and operational efficiency. And also we will study the time-sensitive network over the APN in the mobile networks. So in addition that we will support the IOWN Global Forum with the proof of concept activity and also identify of the potential area, technical area for liaison purpose. And you heard about the talk yesterday on that the POC activity and also liaison the work that by the IOWN Global Forum. So we want to support that. We also want to support that the new study items such as the digital twin and the metaverse, particularly in the area that want to identify what are the requirements for bandwidth, the latency, and the synchronization in various deployment scenario, including that in the mobile network. Finally, that we want to have a preliminary study of the feasibility of the that the energy efficiency label on the optical component or other device, and for that we definitely have to work with the other task force. So before I conclude the presentation, I invite the member, particularly the newly joined the member, to take a look at the work that done by the mobile network task force, and hopefully that you can find that the work interest and useful to your whatever what your industry, and participate in the task force activities. With that, I conclude my presentation today. Thank you very much.